and welcome to another episode of Box and One. I'm Azam Faruqi, and I have here with me Ron Salgado, Pramit Bose. The full roster is back. I hope you enjoyed our last episode. It was about Ron, you were talking about the NBA playoffs and recaps some of the stuff, right?
I did my best going solo.
You did a pretty good job. I liked it.
It's always better to have some help, though.
Yeah, we'll do what we can. You know, we're the Mike McCoys, I guess. So we've been called up for some reinforcements.
And we
The
can't
Mike
see
McCoy
Pramit today.
Football, not football.
Yes, my home is about to undergo a massive renovation, so it's it's a lot of boxes and a lot of packing. It's a bit of a mess right now.
Well, I'm just saying I'm glad that it's not Mike Shapiro, looking after your renos, because otherwise that wouldn't have gotten done. So kudos to you for
he got the needed facilities done.
I know, I'm just joking.
So basically, Pramit would still have turf on his floors.
If it were Beeston, he probably would have had to.
You got it. I'm actually installing turf. I'm getting rid of hardwood and putting in turf.
That's a good move, man. I hear, like, I saw a couple of recent home decoration magazines, and I'm pretty sure I saw turf in there.
Really?
No, God, no, definitely not. I don't even. Do people still read magazines?
I don't know, man. What about infield dirt? That would look pretty cool, like as a divider.
So do you force people to wear slippers when they come in, or they have to go barefoot? What's the protocol?
No, I'm following proper physical distancing measures, so I don't invite anybody in my place these days.
That's sad.
If somebody has to come in, like a contractor, for example, no, they can go. They can keep their shoes on. I mean, it's all going to be ripped apart anyway soon enough.
Good luck with that, though. Hopefully, it's quick and it gets over and done with.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be a couple of weeks at least, and so we'll see. I think it'll get done and it'll look great when it's done. But it's so we're rebuilding it again. Like I'm tanking my condo right now to rebuild a new one. So we have to we're selling everything off and we're doing a proper tank job here.
Well, hopefully you don't end up with Billy McKinney and Brandon Drury. As long as you have something better than that, you'll be okay.
Well, that's gonna. I don't know. That's gonna go down as a horrible, horrible trade in the Shatkins era. Although the defenders will say Hap was pitching pretty badly when the deal was done, and he's really not that valuable. You'd hope for at least like a serviceable reliever coming back. I mean, they got nothing. McKinney's gone. Drury's gonna be non-tendered. Unfortunately.
Let's not harp on the past. The Blue Jays are in playoffs now. First true playoff appearance of the Shatkins era. I know they were there for the 16 as well, but it was mostly a team built by Alex Anthopoulos. So I think this is probably the first, based, like this is truly Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro's team, right? So pretty cool moment, regardless of the circumstances or the season. I mean, every team had an equal opportunity, and I think Blue Jays took advantage of it. It's pretty cool to see them back in playoffs.
It's cool, but honestly, it just feels like participation ribbon kind of territory. I know they had to put in some work to get there, but so in a regular season without any pandemic or anything, would you be okay with an expanded playoff? So would the Jays really deserve to be there?
I think so. The rules are the rules. Other teams would have gone through. Like if the Jays had won the last game and Yankees had lost to Marlins, or even if Yankees had won, even if the Jays had won, they would have been the 5th seed. And would you say the same about Yankees then? Or one win would have meant Jays would have been 5th seed, which in normal playoffs would have been a playoff appearance as well, right? Like at least with a wild card game.
Fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point. Never thought about it that way.
Had this been a normal season, but the record had been what the record would be, they'd still be in the thick of the race. So even though they wouldn't necessarily be in the may or may not make the postseason, they'd be playing a lot of meaningful games into the summertime beyond Game 60. And Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel quote unquote real because like it's a shortened season, different rules, etc. But they went through a lot. They didn't have a home for a while. They had to play home games on the road. They ended up in Buffalo. They had some injuries that they had to overcome, and they did beat some pretty good teams along the way as well. So it's not. And as Azam said, every other team. Look at all the teams that didn't get in that still could have gotten in but didn't get in. So they, the rules are the rules, and they got in because of it. So good on them. They're there now. Best thing to do is just go out there and try to win.
And I think the other thing about that is it's not probably a good year to tank, right? I mean, there's not been a lot of minor league baseball this year. I don't know how much college baseball you're going to see or high school baseball. You're going to have a lot of potential prospects in the next draft more than a year removed from, real playing time. You'd rather have your team perform well, get a low draft pick next year, at least make sure you have some chance, right? Once you're in the playoff, it's a crapshoot in baseball. Anyone can win. So, I mean, in all honesty, even if, you know, trying to hold my horses, but let's say Blue Jays go on and win the World Series, they're still not going to be the worst World Series winners of all time. I think St. Louis Cardinals, the 2006 Cardinals, would probably still be right up there, right? With 83 wins.
Yeah, I mean, fair point, but it's just, I guess it's hard to look past the fact that it's a shortened season, and like I know you guys keep saying like, we're all playing the same game. Other teams are faced with the same thing, so we're just playing within the rules, and we got in. We had the same chance as everybody else. But do you think, like if you extrapolate what we did over a full season, like let's say next year, is this fool's gold, or do you fully expect that they could actually make a run, a legitimate run at a playoff spot without the expanded playoffs?
That's a really good point, and I don't know because, okay, so here's the thing. I don't know what to make of Teoscar Hernandez, and he was a big part of this year's offense, right? I mean, it's such a short sample size. Like I know, okay, so Calvin Bijou had a pretty good year as a rookie last year, and he carried on. In fact, uh, was even better this year. But then again, is 62 games a mirage, or is that sustainable? Those are very fair points. We don't know. Um, they don't have a lot of pitching depth, right? I mean, they do have depth, but they don't have bona fide MLB starters. A lot of them, right? For next year, let's say. So yeah, those are all very good questions, and yeah, I don't know.
I think they'd be in the mix in the wild card race into June, July, and as you guys remember, I did declare that they weren't even going to get the 8th seed this year a month and a half ago. So they don't have, the rotation is a challenge, and when you win with a bullpen, heavily bullpen, it's not really a long-term sustainable model. But I think that a lot of the young guys offensively got better, I think, and they grew. I think we're slowly starting to see Vlad take a big step forward. Bo, Cavan were good. Teoscar, we'll see. Gurriel seems to be a keeper. So there's a base to build upon. There are still some uncertainties in the rotation outside of Ryu. But one thing, as I've said before, that the Shatkins era, coming from Cleveland, that or them in Cleveland and now over here, they're very, very good at developing pitching. I mean, and guys, frontline guys that were not top draft picks, like Shane Bieber right now, he's going to win the Cy Young Award. He was a 4th rounder in 2016. Like Corey Kluber, didn't even have his first full year until he was 28. Clevenger before they traded him. The Cleveland organization in the past 5, 6, 7 years have developed a lot of really, really good frontline starters out of guys that were non-prospects or very lowly regarded prospects. So if that model is here, you would think that in theory, a lot of the arms that they have, maybe at least a couple of them can turn into good starters. But I mean, Roark was a failure. Chase Anderson will not be back. Like, Yamaguchi was awful, so it's not perfect. There's still work to do. But I do think that there is some potential. There is potential there.
I think if in a longer season, you would also see a little bit more development, right? You'd probably see guys like Anthony Kay in the rotation, which again, so yeah, I mean, it's not fair to say they don't have a lot of depth. If I think about it, Kay would have been in the rotation, Baroki would have been in the mix. You probably would have TJ Zoid get some opportunities, at least some spot starts here and there. Pearson would have, probably 20 starts at least. So you potentially could have seen a lot of young guys as well, right? And they signed Chase Anderson. They still had Tanner Roark as a back end guy. Um, they acquired Chase Anderson earlier in the offseason. He would have been a
He
useful
will not
swing
be
back.
back. He
No,
won't
he
be back.
probably wouldn't. But I mean, they were trying to build that back end depth a little bit, right? Because they probably realized some young kids may struggle, and they have a lot of these young guys. But I mean, overall, I've liked what I've seen from Anthony Kay. Um, Baroki has looked good in the bullpen. We'll see how he does next year. So they're definitely still an upward trajectory, I would say.
Yeah. So I think the thing that I like about what I've seen this season is, you apparently, like you said, some of the guys that you look at in our lineup, you've seen some growth from some of the younger guys. Vlad over the past maybe week to 2 weeks has really looked like he's starting to come around and maybe will end up at what they hope he could be. And the part that's a shame about this all is that we don't get to see the growth of Vlad over an entire season to see what that entire body of work would have been. So like it's there's some good, but it just feels like it's unfinished. It feels like they started painting on that canvas and it's starting to look really good. It's really starting to take shape, but somebody ripped it away and now we can't see the rest of it. I mean, we can see the rest in the playoffs. And I guess the good thing about the playoffs and the way the first round is set up is that it's 3 games. And like you guys have said before, it's a crapshoot. Anything can happen. And if anything, the way we've been using our bullpen, this kind of all works out because, we can get a little bit creative with how we work the staff and maybe we can steal some wins. So I don't know if you guys want to get into talking about the series and kind of previewing what we think is going to happen. I have my thoughts, not good, but, we might as well get into it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think the Jays could very well take this series 2-1. The reason, okay, so Tampa's mostly had their number over the years. I think they've won the series this year as well, but the Jays actually outscored them 48-44. And in all honesty, I was kind of glad they lost the last game of the season. I'd rather have them face Tampa, and I know with due respect to Tampa, it's a great ball club, great pitching staff. I don't want to go into a 3-match series against Carrasco and Bieber. Rack up 40 strikeouts and you don't get to game 3. So I'm kind of glad they're in the 8th spot. Snell, even like they've done well against him in one of the games, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't score a lot against him, but they had him on the ropes like a number of times. I think from a pitching matchup, it was interesting to see Matt Shoemaker getting game 1, but I think it's probably because they wanted to give Rio an extra day's rest, which historically has always has worked out for him. And I think the other reason was Taiwan Walker's splits against lefties. I think the OPS is over 800, and for Shoemaker, it's more evenly split between lefties and righties, and Tampa's a pretty heavy lefty-heavy lineup. So that does make sense. And I think starting Shoemaker basically means that game 1's going to be a bullpen day. I personally don't see Shoemaker going more than 3 innings. I think you'll probably see someone like a Hatch or a Pearson maybe come in a couple of innings, and maybe that's how they're going to go.
They actually, they pound lefties. Tampa, I believe it or not, their numbers against lefties are better than their numbers against righties. So it could be that I'm looking at right now. I'm pulling up 2000 and I'm looking at the splits for 2000 and for this season, if I could get that number. But they have a weighted runs plus of about 130 versus lefties. So it's interesting. They actually do hit. I think that's probably part of the reason why they reuse their ace. So they have to put him in game 1 or 2, lefty. But I can understand why they opted to go for a righty starter to start the series, because they just won't hit righties as well, and maybe sneak a win, give Ryu that extra day, whether you're up by 1, down by 1. Anyway, every game is must win now. So it doesn't really matter if you start him game. It's not like a series where you want to start him 1 so you can bring him back in game 4 or 5. So it's fine starting him. The only concern is if you don't start him, and you lose, and especially if it's a close game, then you're really giving yourself minimal room for error in game 2.
So, and that's what I don't like about this, is that I know you're young. I know you're not expecting a lot from this, but you got to come out with your best. Ryu's been your best. Like, why mess around with anything? I just think they're overthinking it. I mean, it could work out. We'll see. Like, time will tell. The one thing that I'm excited about is that with the Snell matchup, I think we see Alejandro Kirk get in as a DH. I don't know if you guys agree, but I don't think there's any way you can trust him as a catcher in this series. Just defensively, managing the staff, I don't think you want to trust him with that, because I don't think he's shown a lot yet. He can't control the running game. But I want to see that bat out there. And like I'm still looking for that rookie card. I found it. I just haven't pulled the trigger. But that's the one thing that has me excited. But overall, I'm not expecting a lot from this series, and mostly it's just going to be let's get some time for the kids in real competitive games and playoff atmosphere. Because I mean, you don't really have the fans, which is part of the fun of playoff baseball. But
they're not fans anyways.
That's a good point.
Remember Logan Morrison when they asked him, how does it feel like playing in front of an empty stadium? He's like, I've played for Marlins and Rays. I'm used to it.
It's so true. It's so true.
But no, I think those are very fair points, and it is a bit of a head scratcher. I mean, I see the rationale. I probably would have preferred to see them start Rio, just because just go. You know what? Every game is sort of like the last game, right? Like you're not gonna survive. You can't plan for game 3 in a series like this. You've got to plan for game 1. Use whatever means necessary. Win game 1, and then think about game 2, and so on and so forth. You're not gonna have a lot of opportunity.
I just pulled up the stats. So 124 weighted runs created plus. So that means they're 24% better than league average versus left-handed pitching. So they pound lefties. So that could be part of the reason why they opted to go with the righty.
What is it against righties?
105. So they're above average, but it's clearly better against lefties. Now, the Jays' best pitcher is a lefty. So I get it. I think Ron does have a point. I think if it's a 5-game series, Ryu starts game 1.
Yeah.
So you can bring him back. If it's a 3-gamer, does a game 1 or 2 really matter as much? Because you just got to win everything.
For sure. He's going to start 2 for sure. You can lose out on a series with your ace sitting for game 3. That's not going to happen for sure.
Yeah. That would he have to, yeah. So I don't mind it as I thought they would have maybe gone with Walker in game 1. I know he did pitch on Friday, but it was 3 innings only. They deliberately just kept it. It was more like a side session than anything else. So I thought maybe they'd consider a 2-day shortened rest and bring him in. I think Walker would be a better matchup, I think, than Shoemaker. Shoemaker can't go that deep anyways. He's still on a pitch count coming back off the injury. So he might be able to get 3 to 4 innings max out of him. And then you got to go with Robbie Ray to piggyback, and he's a lefty. So unless they have another backup plan in mind to follow Shoemaker. I don't like Robbie Ray pitching in game one.
Who?
Robbie Ray.
Well, it'll be interesting, right? I mean, it's funny you mentioned they pound lefties, and even though they're a lefty-heavy lineup, right? So is it because of platoon strips, or is it splits, or is it because they're right? They've got stronger righty hitters.
I think it's a combination of both. I think they just have a really, really. I mean, their best hitter this year was Brandon Lowe, who's a left-handed hitter.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they have really good hitting, and they just tend to hit lefties better. And the Rays are always a little different in the way they build lineups, right? Like they will target left-handed hitters who can hit left-handed pitching, so teams cannot match up against them as well.
Yeah,
those little subtle or
I mean, with the
find ways to develop players like that in the minors. So you make it hard. They will match up you to death, and they won't let other teams do the same.
Yeah, and I know I read something about how in a lineup this year they went 9 lefties, which I don't think has ever been done. And yeah, I think there's something to the fact that they definitely target left-handed hitters who can hit lefties.
Or right-handed hitters who can hit righties, or they develop that in the minors, or.
But I mean, when we say they match lefties, right? We got to be careful that sample is about a quarter of what they would be against righties, right? Like they've got 1,500 at bats against right-handed pitchers and about 500 against left-handed, right? And a lot of those versus left-handed, you got to remember that there are a lot of guys coming out from the bullpen, and then with the 3-man rule, they probably ended up facing a lot of righties and stuff as well, right? So they use that platoon advantage. So I don't know just how much that lefty mashing really exists. They're probably above average. I mean, that's a very high WRC, but even then, I think I think one of the reasons probably is that. Yeah, I think just because I think Shoemaker has better splits, and that's why they felt and they want to give Rio game 2. Again, we will never know the real reason, but we can all speculate, right?
Ironically, Brandon Lowe, who hits left, who I know it's a smaller sample size, but this year he's a left-handed hitter who hit lefties better than righties.
Really?
And if we take a look at, well, now I've gone from weighted runs created plus to OPS plus. So versus left-handed pitchers, he's at 56 plate appearances. Again, smaller, but 186 OPS plus. You look at right-handed 125. I mean, Brandon Lowe was great this year, regardless. He had more power against righties. Actually, no, I take that back. He was better at all across the board against lefties. 6 home runs in 56 at-bats versus 8 home runs in 164 plate appearance. 56 plate appearances, 8 home runs, 164 plate appearances. So he's an outlier. He's a guy that he can hit both very, very well. So I think the Jays are definitely going. I do think they want to marginalize them by going righty heavy around Ryu, which maybe might end up being the smart thing to do.
Yeah, so Azam, you're saying the Jays might win. You think they're going to win in 3?
I think so.
Pramit, you have a prediction?
I'm still giving the edge to Tampa, only because I know the Jays outscored them everything better, but the Jays just have a history of having like disastrous things happen to them in that ballpark, no matter what. You could have a lead, and then some fluky, screwed up play happens in the 9th inning, and you lose it. So I'm going with Tampa because I'm picking. I want the Jays to win, obviously, but I think Tampa will win this series in 3 because I really believe that knowing the Jays' luck in that stadium, it's going to be some weird ass, fluky event that will lead to their.
The catwalk is coming into play.
Through something like that, like 2 of the 3, I think they were 2 or 3 games this year were walk-offs. that the Jays would have had the lead in after 8. Like, fluky stuff that just wouldn't happen otherwise, except versus Tampa.
And I think one reason why you may want to give edge to Tampa, and I agree, is because I think winning 1-0, 2-1, 4-2 is not really Jay's cup of tea lately. It's been like, they lose 20-10, or they win 11-4, or 11-8, and not even 11-4. It's like, so yeah, I mean, their offense has to be like 1-9. Everyone's got to be hot for them to win this series.
3 games. I mean, anything can happen. I mean,
Yep.
anything can happen. This is so weird. Having a best of 3. So we've never had this before. So
I've yet to make my prediction,
Mm-hmm.
and in a shocker, I'm gonna go Tampa in 2. And I don't like. I'm just not confident. I don't know. It's just a feeling, guys.
I can see
Just-
that.
It's a weird season. Like we honestly don't know what's gonna happen. That like the Jays bats could get hot out of nowhere for a couple games and steal them, but it's not gonna happen.
sorry about that.
That's all right. But it's not gonna happen. Tampa in 2. I like, as much as I hate the Rays. I hate seeing games at the Trop. I wish we got a game at Salem Field, because I think there would be a little bit of an advantage if we can play a game there. But it's going to be the Rays. It's going to be in 2 games. Maybe the Ryu game is close because maybe he pitches a gem. But I don't think we have the horses to win this race, guys.
I wouldn't be surprised if they
It's
lose.
not a race. It's not a race, man. It's a 3-gamer. Anything could happen. That's the thing. That's how crazy this format is.
So,
It's a sprint.
talking of predictions, what's your prediction on the Marlins series, Ron?
All right, so let's get this out of the way. I was prepared for this. I knew this was coming. So this is the Marlins' 3rd time in team history in the postseason. They have never won a division, but they've won 2 World Series. So 2 wild card appearances, 2 World Series. This is the 3rd wild card appearance. Guys, I think it's obvious what's going to happen. The Marlins are going to beat the Cubs. They'll beat them in 3 games, and they're going to go on to win the World Series. Like, it's done. It's written, and this is the perfect season for them to do it.
Back to the Future 2, 2015. The Cubs win over Miami. That series is finally happening 5 years later in a really screwed up kind of year as well. No, I think. I mean, 3 games. I think Cubs are going to win that series.
No, in all seriousness, I was looking at the numbers, and like the Marlins offense. Actually, the Cubs offense isn't great either. They definitely have more postseason experience. The Marlins just don't have a lot. I mean, other than the fact that they can steal some bases. Maybe they steal a game, but no, it's not even going to be close. That's going to be 2-0 for the Cubs as well. But it would be a great story if the Marlins did it again, where they won that World Series with no chance. But like, those 2 teams that won the World Series had some actual talent. Like, not that there's some talent on the Marlins, but nothing like the 2 World Series teams that won. It's not going to be close. I'm going to watch. I haven't watched a lot of the Marlins in the past few years, but it'll be nice to see. And it's nice that this is the first time in 17 years that they made the postseason. Like, that's despicable. So just the fact that they're there, and for some of those guys, especially with the way the season started, with all the COVID cases, the fact that I said this earlier to you guys, the fact that they were actually able to get 60 games in is unreal to me, with all the issues that they were having, all the minor leaguers that they had in the lineup.
So let me ask you guys, early on in the season with the Marlins outbreak, and I know I'm going off on a tangent, and then we heard about cards, and there was this inevitable feeling of when the season's going to get shut down, right? And Manfred would just somehow want to get to postseason. I mean, at this point, you want to give them some credit. Pretty much every team got to 62 games, right? Or 60 games, sorry. Why do I keep saying 62?
Except for the Cardinals, I think.
Yeah.
They hit 58. Like
Yeah.
we were all joking about this earlier. Like it was going to last 2 weeks. There was actually at one point where MLB told their broadcast partners, make sure you have some alternative programming for after the weekend because this might not happen.
Hmm.
They definitely deserve some credit. I have no idea how we're at this point where we're actually going to make it to the playoffs. Do you guys think we're making it to the World Series?
Yeah, because you've gotten rid of a bunch of teams. You're now, after this round, going into a bubble.
Yep.
So that reduces the risk. So the travel has become very minimal. It's just a matter of teams following the rules while they're in the bubble. And I'm not familiar with what those rules are, but the bulk of the travel and the going city to city is over. So it's much more of a controlled environment, and you are down to 16 teams, and then by the end of the week, you're going to be down to 8 teams, and then a week after that, you're going to be down to 4. And then it's going to be, again, in a bubble. So I think we'll make it.
But you got to give credit to Rob Manfred. Like if you give him all that flack, and deservedly so, then if things go right, I mean, sure, maybe luck played a factor and always does, but you got to give it to MLB for getting through this, right?
I guess, yeah. I mean, if they came down harder on teams and made sure that the rules were followed, and if Manfred I find it hard to ever give him credit for anything, to be honest. I mean, I would give more of the credit to the teams and the players and the coaches on those teams that are actually following the rules. I mean, it's not difficult. Don't go anywhere. Stay in your hotel if you're on the road. Minimal. Don't meet with other people at bars and restaurants. The one who did got caught and punished for it, and Cleveland ended up trading a damn good pitcher like Clevenger because of it. So that sent a message that, teams and leagues are serious. So I would give more of the credit to the players and the teams than Manfred himself. It's not like he was standing over these guys, keeping everybody in line here. But they were kind of, other leagues who were in bubbles were doing daily testing. They were doing testing every other day without a bubble. Was that the right thing to do, or should they have just spent the money and gone with daily testing, knowing that they weren't going to be having a season in a bubble? I think some of it is luck, and there were outbreaks that happened, and they let the Miami team make the decision to play at that time, which resulted in screwing up the first 2 weeks of the season. Yeah, they got through it, but how much of it is Manfred and how much is it just the players and luck?
I mean, I think you got to remember, so I agree, luck, like I said, plays a factor, but I think leagues are starting to learn how to cope with this a little bit. I mean, NFL's gone through 3 weeks now, and I was listening to Freakonomics podcast, like an episode, and they had a PA rep on, and they also had a doctor on. He's the chief. I don't know his title. He works for the NFL, and he used to be part of, I think, Department of Defense or something, or I think he was involved with the crisis management post 9/11. So they got an individual like that, and they put protocols in place and things like that. And I think best practices tend to get shared quite a bit, right? I mean, especially if you see in soccer, I mean, Europe's been a hotbed, and they're learning to manage through that, right? In UK, and everyone's still traveling and everyone's still playing at home. In fact, the UEFA Super Cup final was in Bucharest, and I saw fans in the stadium. That was a bit of a surprise for me, but so
Bundesliga's got fans.
Yeah, Bundesliga's got fans. Yeah, Germany. So I mean, I guess the more time we spend in it, I think the more leagues will, and like the players' associations, unions, they're probably going to learn a little bit more as well, right? I think you'll be able to quantify the risk a little bit better, especially if these ones where they do daily testing and things like that, and they have protocols. Because in all honesty, you can't put people in a bubble for a whole season. It's just not going to work. Like, let's be real, right? As much as we wanted to,
the PA would never go for it anyways. Like the players would lose their minds. You can't do that to people.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not fair. You can't do that. You can't.
Yeah.
It's cruel.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh,
I
for
don't
sure.
care how much people say, "Oh, they make so much money, this and that." Like,
Human
you're a
beings.
human being.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So before we move on to the NBA Finals, is there aside from the Blue Jays, is there anybody you guys are interested in seeing? Anybody you guys are rooting for? Any predictions for who the winners are going to be, or the winner is going to be?
It's a good one.
No, it's a question, but honestly, it's so having teams eliminated in a 3-game series. Like, you were gonna see some wacky stuff happen. So I don't like. I'm not really big on predictions in this kind of format because who knows? I mean,
Okay, I might say that the winner may come out of a National League. I think if, again, it's a crapshoot, but I think the winner is going to be one of Dodgers, Braves, or Padres.
I'm with the Padres only because of that's right, and I hope he's going to be swinging 3-0 in a
bottom of the
big,
ninth.
yeah. When the game is over, I love it. I love Tatis. I just want, like, I haven't seen him play because, I mean, really, with the NBA going on and with us doing this and like just our regular lives, I've seen the Jays and whoever they've been playing, which is NL East, AL
Mhm.
East, and that's it. So I haven't seen anybody else.
I'm making my prediction. I think, okay, I'll make one prediction. I think Oakland will represent the AL in the World Series. Finally, after all these years.
That's a good pick.
This is Denver Nuggets level pick.
Amen. Do I get credit for calling them a sleeper and them getting to the conference final?
No, because they weren't even a sleeper. What were they? The 3rd seed? 4th seed?
Everybody was saying the 2 LA teams. And Portland. Portland was a sexy pick as well because they were going to be healthy.
That was my pick.
Yeah, thank you. Nobody said, "Oh yeah, Denver's going to go." It was good. They said LA because the way they were going to match up against the Clippers in round 2 if they've got to round 2, and a lot of teams picked Utah to beat them. A lot of people rather picked Utah to beat them, and so anybody matching up against an LA team in this was going to be considered not to go deep. People thought they were going to get swept by the Clippers.
Yeah. Any surprises that the Lakers ended up beating them?
Not really. I thought maybe they'd go 6. I thought maybe there'd be we get a little bit of drama there. I thought maybe Murray would have one of those like psychotic games where he just went off and won them a game. No, it wears you down going like 7-7, like every round playing in that level of intensity. You need to have a laugher. You need to be able to win a game and win around less than 7 games sometimes. And I think they just ran out of gas, to be honest.
Yeah, when you looked at the minutes played by player, Jokic and Jamal Murray they were like maybe 100 minutes ahead of anybody else who was closest. When you put that kind of mileage on guys, like I know they hadn't played in 3 months or whatever, 4 months, whatever it was, and they had some rest, but it's gonna wear you down. So I wasn't surprised at all. And I mean the LeBron factor. You guys know me. I was never a big LeBron guy. I've always, kind of been a LeBron hater, but it's hard not to appreciate what the guy's been doing, especially that in that last game where he scored the 9 points in a row, and like one of the shots where he kind of came through the lane, took a step sideways, and took a fadeaway, but it was like kind of going sideways, and he still ended up making that basket. Like there are just things that he can do at his age. It's incredible, and I'm just learning to sit back and actually enjoy, because like even through my childhood, I hated Jordan, so I couldn't even appreciate what Jordan was doing. So I don't want to miss this again.
You're 17, man.
Yeah, it took me 17 years to actually get onto the bandwagon.
it's unheard of for a guy to be in year 17 and be this good. Well,
Yeah.
like even stars, many of them don't even play 17 years. Like,
Yep.
it was to be at this level with that level of that much mileage on all those finals runs, and all those people that say, "Oh, whoa, he's 3-6 in the finals. That doesn't count." How many of the times has he
9
actually
finals.
gone
Though.
into the finals as the favorite? I think really the 4 Miami teams were the favorites, and they were 2-2 there.
Yeah.
The Cleveland years, any like that 07 team, and then those 4 years. I mean, come on, they split Golden State the first 2 years, and then Golden State went out and got Durant, and then nobody was going to beat them.
Yeah, for sure.
So
even before that, I mean,
of those
literally carrying Cleveland on its own, right?
of those 9 finals teams, now 10 before this year, of those 9 teams that he was on, 4 of those 9, so less than half of them, he was the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And even the Miami 2014 team again series, I mean, they ended up hindsight's 2020, but that team, the Miami team that year was starting to run on fumes a bit as well. Wade wasn't the guy he was. The depth got to them. It probably weren't part of the reason why he left. He saw that they were getting a little older too. So, yep.
No,
he's incredible.
I think another person who goes underappreciated, and I think we should probably do an episode on him, is I think Eric Spoelstra. He's now the second longest tenured coach in NBA. Every time you have these new coaches, new schemes, and like Nurse we talk about, or Brad Stevens, like in most of the credit that Spoelstra gets is because of the big 3, and but even outside of that, his record has been pretty darn good. I mean, like he's building a Hall of Fame caliber resume for himself.
Yeah, 591 career win percentage in the regular season, 624 in the playoffs. Benefits from the fact that Miami is a very, very stable organization. They don't fire coaches. They don't do knee-jerk stuff. I think since Mickey Arison took over the team from his father and the other investors in the mid-90s and hired Pat Riley, they've only had 3 coaches, Riley, and then Riley moved into the president's role. They promoted Stan Van Gundy. Then when Riley fired him, he came back in and then promoted Spoelstra in 08, and that's it. And he's a great coach. I think he benefits from the also again stable organization. He never has to worry about losing his job. He just coaches, and it's key. It's very difficult. I think coaches more than anything else are in the NBA because these people, everybody's so impatient. We live in an era of instant gratification. I mean, they'd only won 1 playoff round since LeBron left and coming into this year. And that would have gotten a lot of coaches fired. But it was never a question with him. Never. He got an extension after missing the playoffs last year. And that just goes to show that how great he is because, I mean, Pat Riley is demanding, and the fact that they have an organization that will actually work together to solve problems rather than and find a way to figure it out rather than just have a musical chairs of executives and coaches.
Yeah, and I got tired all season, I'll be honest with you, a little bit hearing about the Heat culture, but I mean, there is definitely something to it. And the fact, like you said, Pramit, the fact that he stayed around through some I guess what you can call some lean years for a franchise that won some titles. I mean, there's definitely something to it, and what he's been able to do this year with the guys that he has, it's really impressive. But I mean, just looking forward at the series, I think it stops there. LeBron, I'm pretty sure, is going to win another title. I'm actually not pretty sure. I think LeBron's getting another title out of this.
Yeah, I agree.
Numero 4. So,
but do you think as a coach this year for Spoelstra maybe more satisfying? You don't have big names like he did when he won the championships, and he still coached this team. Like, is it a bit of a surprise that they're in the finals? Kind of.
Definitely.
Right? Like for a
once they got, I think they had a better, sorry to cut you off, I think they had a better regular season than people expected this year. But I think once they got in, teams expect like there was 4 clear-cut favorites in the East, and at that it could have gone to either 4. And many people were picking them even over Milwaukee. So once the playoffs started, I think they were. So I'm not overly surprised.
Yeah, I did say it when the Raptors were playing. I don't know if it was after the Nets series or sometime during the Boston series that, even if they got past Boston, I wasn't sure if they'd get past Miami. And it was the fact that they're so well coached, and they have it's just like the perfect fit of talent. Like they complement each other so well. And on some of their possessions, when you see the way they move on offense, even the Iguodala addition is starting to look pretty good. When he first got there, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And I can't remember what they ended up paying for him. I'm pretty sure they overpaid, and I don't know if that's going to look so good next year. But I mean, they've had a great year. It's not something that anybody expected, but when you look at it now and the way they play, it makes perfect sense. But the LeBron factor for me is just what's going to separate the two teams. I'm going to make my prediction. It's going to be the Lakers in 5.
I'll say Lakers in 6.
I'll go with 6.
Bam, Duncan. They got some good support. I mean, Miami got some good supporting guys. I think they can win a couple of games. I mean, they're young. I think they're okay. So the best 2 players are on Lakers, no question.
Yeah,
obvious. But after that, the next 4 or 5 best players in that series are all on Miami. I would take Jimmy Butler and Bam
Tyler
over
Hero.
or Dragic and Hero and Duncan Robinson and Jay Crowder. I'll take those guys over anybody else, any of the other guys that are on the Lakers.
Yeah, what I think is going to be interesting to see is how the Lakers end up, like what lineup they end up going with, because near the end of the Nuggets series, they ended up going with Dwight starting at center, which definitely made an impact, especially after Game 3 when they just got pounded on the boards, and then they shuffled it up, and I don't think McGee, I don't think he's going to get that spot back. I think if they come out with Dwight, the interesting thing is going to be the matchups with Dwight out there, because I don't know that. So Bam will probably end up covering AD. I think AD wins that matchup, puts a little bit of pressure on Bam. I just don't know what's going to happen defensively. I guess you can try Dwight on him, but I don't know if that'll go well for the Lakers. It'll be interesting because Vogel's another guy. Vogel's a guy who doesn't get a lot of credit, and I think a lot of people thought that after his Orlando stint that he was pretty much done. He might be one of those guys that gets a shot here or there, maybe for a lesser franchise, but he's done a good job coaching that team, especially considering the fact that it's 2 guys and then a bunch of guys who may or may not show up.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and Miami, younger, better, more athletes. I think they could give the Lakers some trouble in that regard. Very physical, but I still think the top 2 guys. It's at the end of the day, as we've learned, like when you got 2 legit top tier stars on your team, that's very difficult to overcome. I mean, it'll happen once in a while, like the Pistons of 2004, but the IQ of LeBron, I think, is like off the charts. So I think,
and he has. Sorry, but he's one of the few guys in this series that can. I mean, the 2 guys in this series when you're down, and we talked about this with the Raptors not having this type of guy. They have 2 guys who can just completely take over a game. Hero did it to a certain extent. Bam did it in Game 6. I don't like Jimmy Butler. Sure, maybe, but the 2 guys who you can count on when you need it are AD and LeBron. They're coming to play, and LeBron specifically has done this before, and he can carry a team even at 36.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's 36. Yeah, I think
even
so.
At 36.
He'll be 36 in December. He'll be 36 in December.
Okay, yeah. Even at 36, he's the guy that can take over the series, and nobody else on either roster can take over the way he does.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. It'll be interesting. It'll be like I don't care one way or another who wins. I'm not like when I was a kid, I was a Heat fan, but I don't have that affiliation with them anymore. I've never been a Lakers fan, so I don't. It's nice to sometimes just be able to sit back and just watch and appreciate what you're seeing. But being unbiased opinion, it's for me, it's the Lakers.
Yeah, I think the Lakers will win it just because of the two guys that can take over the takeover factor.
How long have we been going on?
I think we've been going for an hour, so I think we've we've probably hit our limit. I don't know. Is there anything else you guys want to mention? Any interesting stuff that you guys have been watching sports related lately that you maybe want to just throw out there?
Interesting stuff. Well, the soccer games were pretty interesting. Man City got dismantled. Bayern lost 4-1, streak of like 23 games or something. So that was pretty cool. I mean, not cool for Bayern, but I mean, the streak itself. But other than that, good stuff.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention, yeah. I mean, they looked good. Nice to get the win. Let's just see how the season progresses when we actually play some talent. Suarez had a good good debut. Apparently, I didn't see it, but it's going to be weird this season, especially with the issues that Spain's having COVID related. So let's see if they make it through.
I'm really curious to see how Coutinho looks in this role.
Yeah, that's a big question mark. It's a huge question that needs to be answered, and then when you look at just the way the lineup shakes up, like the fact that Busquets is still in there, and I think Koeman is probably going with some of the veterans in there. It'll be interesting to see if he keeps that spot for much longer. I don't think so. I think they should eventually move on to the younger guys, but I don't make the decisions.
So they have 4-2. They played 4-2-3-1 for the most part, right? I didn't watch the highlights.
Yeah,
and he kept talking a lot about using double pivot, and that's where Busquets has his value, right? Frankie De Jong. So I don't know who else do they have there who can probably play that role among the younger guys.
Ricky Puig. That's the name that you've been hearing, but then you also hear that Koeman wants him to find a new home, which is just crazy. But I think they're trying to get value out of any players that they can, just to kind of make the money situation look a little bit better for the club.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We'll see Griezmann up top. So he did what he had been talking all along, that he wants to play this. I mean, tactically 4-2-3-1, but I'm really interested. Fatih, I think, had a good game. So
2 goals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the big one, and he's on I think his contract expires after this year. Ended up signing with super agent Jorge Mendes, which is probably not going to be good for the club. They're probably going to end up having to pay for him, but he's looking like he's worth it.
Scott Boras.
Yep. That's exactly it.
All right, so I think we've come to the end of it. We'll probably get back. If we record again on Sunday, we're probably done with the J series somewhere halfway through the Lakers Heat. I think that's probably a good spot.
Yeah.
So I think we'll probably come back for that.
Any last words, Pramit?
No, I think I summed up everything nicely. Wear your mask, people. Wear your masks.
All right, so everybody, thanks for watching or listening, or however you're consuming our show. If you have any feedback, reach out to us. Instagram at Boxing1Pod, Twitter, which hopefully I hope to get a little bit more active on there, but I've been posting here and there. Feel free to contact us. Subscribe to our podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Comment, interact with us however you can, and just let us know what you think.
Thank you very much.
See you, everyone.
Thank you.